Hello again. So here in this video we're going to start to go through the different sections of the training manual. The training manual obviously goes through basically the specifics of how to perform a bar audit. This is separate from our operations manual, which basically talks sort of a different level which is aimed about how to run your bar franchise. But anyone that's going to be using the bar software and completing audits will eventually run through this training program. And rather than have you read this document has actually grown pretty large. So we're recording a video version to make it easier to digest, and the idea again is that you'll get a little snippet each day. So let's have a quick look here at the different sections. So we've kind of tried to work this as building blocks where we start at a high level and then introduce things so that each topic builds on the previous one. So today, or to start with, we're going to run into bar culture and then carry on through, for instance, the equipment we use, products we measure, all of that, until you've built up a sort of body of knowledge where you know how to do everything that bar does. So here we are. The reason we start on culture is, at the end of the day, we can try and cover all the specifics of what you need to do, but at some point you're going to have to make your own decisions, and the way to make those decisions is to really put yourself in the position of the customer and think about from a high level what we're trying to do as a business. So on that basis, we think the most important thing you will do is ensure a good customer experience. Remember basically that people are paying us to perform their inventory. It's certainly not the cheapest way to do it, and what that means is that we need to be very good at what we do, and we also need to ensure that the experience of working with Bar is a positive one. Honestly, sometimes it's more important that the experience be positive than that the result be exactly what we want. Many times the bars might drag their heels and take a little longer to get to the goal of 95% than we would like. But what's important, as said, is to ensure that along that journey we're being supportive, helpful, and encouraging them, rewarding them, and congratulating them when they do well. You will sometimes find it's frustrating, but as I said, more important than anything you do, make sure that the experience of interacting with your franchise, with your business, with you as an employee is a positive one. So continuing along those lines, don't get into people's way. We are obviously a service business. While what we do is quite important, it's kind of a back of house operation. It's certainly not as important as serving the customers at the bar, because while our business is all about making inventory a pleasant experience for our clients, their business is all about providing food and a good experience to their customers. So don't get in the way of the bar doing that. If an employee's interacting with a customer, that's more important than answering your question, so unfortunately you'll have to wait. The easiest way to to achieve this, to stay out of people's way, is to do the counting portion before employees arrive. It's that early bird catches the worm thought. If you come in at sort of 8 in the morning to most bars, you'll be on your own, peace and quiet, and you can hammer through that counting without being interrupted, without having to stop and let employees come and grab product, whatever it is. But most of all, don't get in people's way. I worked at a high-end restaurant in Boston once, and they had a very clever rule. I'd never really thought about it, but when you come to a narrow point in the restaurant where there's a customer trying to pass by a table and a waiter was trying to pass by a table, often the waiter will be in a hurry and kind of push through the small gap and make the customer wait. And we had a rule at this restaurant where if you got in that situation, there was a narrow gap, you had to stand, wait your turn, and encourage the customer to come through first. And what that does in terms of a feeling is it makes the customer feel like they're more important than what you're doing. And that's basically what we're aiming for here. So just a little example about not getting in people's way. Basically, act as if other people's time is more important than yours. You won't feel like that the whole time, definitely frustrating, but remember, we're a service business. Smile, do it correctly, and ultimately you'll have a more successful business if you do that. Extension of this idea is when you're setting up your equipment and gear to do a full service audit, you'll have to sort of open your box up and spread out some of the gear. Make sure you choose the least popular table in the bar. Sometimes we set up actually at the bar. If it's a quiet day, it's okay to do that. But if it gets to the point where there's perhaps less than 2 or 3 spare spots at the bar, you need to move to a less popular table. And then if the restaurant is really going to fill up, typically we're not doing audits in this period, you might have to go and sit in back in dry storage or something. But of course, servers make their money from serving people at tables. It's kind of their real estate, and so it's important that you don't take up people's tables, don't take up sort of the revenue generating possibility of the restaurant. That being said, if it's not busy, we typically prefer to be in amongst the restaurant so we can have a bit of a handle and see what's going on, see how the staff of the bar are interacting with customers, and just for instance a little bit keep half an eye on the bartender, see what they're doing, are they following the protocols we'd recommend to them. Be courteous in everything you do. This one is obvious, I won't dwell on this point, but be polite, ask, say please and thank you. In the tone of emails, you'll find that often you're reminding bars of the same things over and over again. And honestly, it can get a little bit tedious. It gets even more tedious when you ask a bar to do something, they don't do it, and the next week you have the same problem, you're asking them about it again. Regardless, you must overcome your frustration at that and keep a positive note to your emails. Again, they are paying us to help them, and therefore, where we're telling them what to do, that sort of feeling is not going to be beneficial for anyone's aims, whereas encouraging, suggesting, congratulating, all of those sorts of things ultimately should get you there better. Again, you need to try and work with the employees, try and encourage them rather than telling them what to do and kind of acting like their boss whenever possible. This is another important one. We rely on the staff of our bars to provide a lot of the information to communicate hidden information or exceptions or things we need to adjust. Sometimes the staff are not going to be over the moon that we're there because ultimately we shine a light onto their actions and behavior, but we need to overcome that sort of maybe bit of threat or perhaps a slightly negative thought they might have towards an auditing service. It's a lot harder to be annoyed at someone if you get to know them and you like them. So when you have the opportunity to interact with the bar staff, do so. Ask them about how they were doing. If they were going to a party last week, ask them about that. If you have a little bit of a positive relationship with them, it will be a lot easier. They'll be more helpful and amenable to the things you need. And ultimately, again, we rely on them to change their behavior to achieve the goals. So starting with a good relationship will ultimately make us be more successful on our aims. Quick note on being tidy. Again, we're a service. It should look like a cleaner has been, perhaps, if you look into their keg room. So when you get into the keg room, sure, they should be breaking down their broken cases of beer. If they're not doing that, perhaps you can do so for them and leave the broken cases in a neat pile somewhere, or even take it out to the trash to encourage them and show them, hey, this is the way it's meant to be done, this is what we suggest, and I'm willing to do the extra work to make this happen and be organized. And if I'm asking you to do that, probably it should be a task that I'm willing to do as well. Another quick one is turn off lights. Obviously, we're here to save money. It doesn't make much sense to be saving the money on their inventory and then costing the money by leaving lights on, so be mindful about things like that. And finally, this one will save you time. If you borrow keys, I strongly recommend that as soon as you borrow that set of keys to get into that cooler, you open the cooler and walk right back to the person you gave them to. Don't put them in your pocket. I had a nightmare once where I had a 2-hour round trip because I took the keg cooler key and I had to deliver it back so they could, get on with their day, and it was a Friday night, I believe. So try and get into the habit of giving the keys right back. Another idea you might do is put the keys around your neck so that they're really obvious and you'll notice them, or even if you do put them in your pocket, put them in your back pocket so when you sit down in your car you realize you've got a lump of keys in there and you can give them back before you leave the bar. But that's a quick introduction. As I said, culture is more important than anything. All the specifics really don't matter as much as making the interactions with Bar I a positive thing. If we get that right, all of the other technical pieces will fall into place. So that's section 1. Thank you.